Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you for your viewing and listening pleasure Trump, Lord of MAGA, and the linking of the Ukraine flame, a Ukraine cinematic universe story. The story so far. Trump was the chosen boomer, selected to continue the new American century. Trump struck forth. His mighty social media posts peeled away the media's narrative. 4chan weaved great memes. Russian bots unleashed a miasma of DDoS attacks and hacking, and RFK Jr. betrayed his own. And just like that, the swamp had finally been defeated, and thus began the age of MAGA. But Trump's quest was not yet finished, as he had to collect the political futures of the four great lords and claim the Oval Office. Trump went up against Nimrata the neocon, De Sanctimonious, Lord of Florida, Kamala, Queen of Wine, and Hillary the Witch of Washington. Finally, after his enemies were defeated, he faced the charred husk, a Biden president of dementia, and took the Oval Office from him. As Trump stood victorious, he was given a choice: to link the Ukraine flame and continue the unipolar moment, or to walk away, let it fade, and finally put America first. As Trump stared into the flame, he was tempted by the promise of the Nobel Peace Prize Platinum Trophy, and he underestimated the difficulty of New President Plus. And so he chose to link the Ukraine flame, tying his presidency to a rapidly fading fire and using all of his political capital to sustain it. Now Trump opts to try and resolve the conflict, failing again and again. Each time he fails, he loses more and more of his legitimacy in political capital, and his reign gets degenerated into some sort of undead husk. Okay, so what was I trying to say without all the autism and Dark Souls references? So, Trump came to power with a mandate to pursue a nationalist foreign policy and to avoid neocon wars to spread democracy. Like, we aren't going to do the Iraq war. We aren't going to do the Afghanistan war. We're not going to get involved in Syria. We're done with all the nonsense of the Bush-Obama era. If there's going to be war, it's going to be for America's national interests. So when he came to power, obviously there's a lot of big diplomatic crises, but the most immediate one was the Russo-Ukraine war, which was an ongoing dumpster fire that there was really no way to resolve. And I maintain that Ukraine was losing slowly militarily. Other than a direct intervention by the U.S., there was no real way to turn it around militarily. And the position between the two sides is completely incompatible, so there's really no way of coming to any kind of negotiated settlement. It was also becoming unpopular at home, particularly with regards to his base, who was tired of it and had like a million other priorities that we'll get into later. So Trump had a choice. Like I said, he could have walked away from the Ukraine flame, chosen not to link his political capital to it, and just blamed it on Biden. Just said, like, look, Biden released a terrible patch. It was buggy. The frame rate was single digits in the swamp. This wouldn't have happened if I had been president. I would have solved this previously. Biden has screwed up this situation to the point where there's really nothing I can do about it. And then maybe tried to offer the Kellogg deal or some sort of a ceasefire. And then when Russia and Ukraine rejected, just say, look, I tried, a curse on both your houses. This isn't my problem. And go try to deal with like the 100 other problems that are more important to his base and to America as a country. He did not do this. And now we have a series of interpersonal conflicts, inabilities to make decisions, petty and extremely lame 24-hour offs being run against each other. Even if this stuff succeeds, it's not going to go anywhere. In other words, we have a soap opera. We have days of our Trump on our hands. And it's just such a mess. And I wanted to do a video just talking about this in its totality, because I've done separate videos, but the whole thing is just like some like Mean Girls stuff, like some teenage girl stuff, like some other pop culture references that I could make. It literally feels like just a bunch of like children fighting over toys, and they don't know what they're doing and there's no adult in the room. And then you throw in the Europeans and they're also acting that way. And it's just really sad and kind of pathetic and strange to watch. And if you're Putin or Xi or Modi or some other like semi-serious world leader, you're going, what is even happening? Like, does every Trump presidency just have to be a soap opera? Does it have to be a constant drama, people getting fired, people snaking each other, like stuff not getting done, constant personnel changes? Like can't they just do what they were elected to do? And I'm not saying Trump hasn't done a lot of stuff. I mean, he has done a lot of stuff, but it just this always seems to happen. And I'm going to call him out on this because this is what Trump said. He initially, does anyone remember when he said, I will end the war in Ukraine before being sworn in? Now, that was an exaggeration, but he said that numerous times. Then there was, I will end the war within 24 hours of becoming president. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was quickly memory hold. Then it was, I will end the war in the first week, and that didn't happen. Then it was the first 100 days, and that didn't happen. And now it's the war will be ended soon. Trust me, bro. Is basically where we're at. And you can say that, like, Argent, that's unfair. There was no way he was actually going to do any of that. There's no way he could have ended the war within 100 days, let alone before becoming president. And like, yeah, I understand that, but he said that. He like built part of his campaign around it. And once we start getting into like, oh, well, you can't believe anything Trump says because he just makes shit up. And like one of the most important foreign policy priorities of his term was just based on stuff he just made up on the spot and gave arbitrary deadlines for. I'm sorry, that's not really acceptable. I get that that's a funny post. I get that that's like a way to own Biden during a debate. But it's just such a profoundly unserious way of dealing with this situation. And that's why I think it's such a mess at the moment. So what is some of the drama? Like, why do I say this is a soap opera? So we have this weird tsundere relationship with Putin, where he's like, I love Putin. He's a great guy. He's my bro. He sent me this awesome portrait of myself. He prayed for me when I got shot. And then he'll be like, no, Putin's evil. Putin's this like dude who's hard to work with. I'm going to put tariffs and taxes and sanctions, and I'm going to bring Russia to its knees. And he just goes back and forth between this on almost a daily basis. Likewise, Zelensky is an abusive frenemy, where some days he'll be like, oh, Zelensky's my bro. We're never going to walk away from this. We're going to help him save Ukraine. And then in other days, he just publicly mocks him. And Zelensky some days is Trump's best friend. And then other days, he just shits on him. And it's just both relationships don't make a lot of sense. And I get there's a difference between something being complicated and something just being like a random like mixture of things from day to day. He also holds corporate events to humiliate and demean his employees. You know what I'm talking about, where they have it and they give out like the crappy awards and they go, look, because our company made so much money, you're all getting 0.5% raise, and the senior management are getting multi-million-dollar bonuses. And by that I refer to like all these things they're having with Europe, where Vance or him shows up and just insults them or otherwise mogs them or just screws with them and embarrasses them, and that's kind of part of it. And I don't really get why that's necessary, but that's the core aspect. We have this weird pyramid get rich quick scheme subplot that's going on throughout all of this, and by that I mean the tariffs that like keep coming into play and then they don't come into play, and then just this random mess of just nonsense. Like I said, it's teenage girl shit. It's like high school. Oh, is Susie going out with Chad, or is Susie going out with Melvin? It's kind of like that. Yeah, like I said, we have the breakups. They leave each other. Like, we're friends with Britain now. Then Britain snaked me. We're not friends with them. And in China, we're gonna have good relations with China, but we're gonna put tariffs on China, but then we're not. And like, they're so desperate, and the main cast is floundering they just bring in special guest star Steve Witkoff, who is kind of an interesting figure because he has no diplomatic background, but because he has no diplomatic background, he seems to be surprisingly effective because he seems to just like go to like America's opponent and talk to them like a real human being and listen to what they're saying and then thinking about what they had said. Like normally the standard Western way of doing diplomacy is okay, we talk to each other, we come up with an agreement, then we present the agreement to the other side and they accept it. That's normally how it works. He's evolved past that and he actually will go to Putin and listen to what Putin says. So that's progress, I guess. But yeah, Steve Witkoff is just mogging the main cast. Okay, so we have like the factionalism within the Trump camp. We have like the neocon light of like, well, I was going to say Waltz, but Waltz just got removed. You have like Waltz, Rubio, Kellogg on one side, and then you have like Vance, Gabbard, and Witkoff on the other with the more realist faction, and they're constantly sniping at each other. And Trump's not really able to pick between his friend groups. It's like, do I go with this friend group that I met at this club, or do I go with the friend group that I'm with in band? Or I can't tell which friend group that I should pick over the other because they're enemies with each other. And we literally had like a Discord call, social media chat that the hall monitor found out about. I'm talking about Signal, like where they were talking all this crap on like an unsecured chat app, and someone let an Atlantic reporter into this private chat, and then the Atlantic reporter just screenshotted the whole thing and then released it. Like, how does that happen? Why are they adding Atlantic reporters? Why are they having like this like Slack chat about the future of American foreign policy? Like, none of it makes any kind of sense. It's just like teen girls who are texting each other behind their back, and then like the hall monitor gets their hands on the phone and gives it to like takes screenshots of it and gives it to the principal. So we have that. In the 3 months so far, Waltz was fired because of the whole. I think it was partially because of the Signal thing. It was also because he was doing back channel negotiations with Israel without telling Trump about it, and he thought that was acceptable. Now, to be fair, you might not want to have the guy whose idea it was to discuss national secrets over an unsecured chat app and then invite random journalists into it. That guy may not be the best national security advisor. So he's been given a position on the UN as UN ambassador, although he has no experience in that. I don't know what's going on with Pete Hegseth. I think he was almost out and then he's not out. And it's just complete interpersonal chaos. And this just seems to happen every time that Trump runs something. And it's just, I don't see this with other presidential administrations. They're able to somewhat hold it together. And I get that there's a lot of issues that Trump faces, and it's better than last time, but it's still just a mess. So why is things like this? So, and I'm going to be critical of Trump here. Like I said, I think Trump's done a lot of good stuff. I think he's been a pretty good president so far. But like, we have to be real about some of his, shall we say, quirks. So Trump is not a stupid guy. I think some people on the left say that. He's not stupid. I do think Trump is ignorant and uninformed on a lot of things. And unlike a lot of people, maybe people with a little bit of humility who are uninformed, he just immediately has to take a really strong position when he's asked about something. And it's normally the position of the last person he talked to. So he'll just like take this really strong position, just throw it out there, and then publicly commit to it. And then he's not able to back down from the thing he said that was really rash. So the example I have, and we're going to go to dinosaurs because what is an autistic reference-filled geopolitical analysis without dinosaurs? It's like if you ask Trump, were the dinosaurs endotherms or ectotherms? Even if Trump didn't know what those terms meant, he would take an extremely strong position. He'd be like, the dinosaurs were ectotherms, 100%. There's never been a species that was more ectothermic than the dinosaurs. All my detractors think that they were endotherms. Those people are stupid. Those people aren't classy. I can make a deal with them so that they come to acknowledge that the dinosaurs were ectotherms. And I feel like, honestly, for a lot of things, that he probably would do something like that. Another thing about Trump, and someone pointed this out, and this is very true, Trump is very much uninterested in details. And this is something I've noticed with a lot of senior management at various companies I've been at, is there's this sense where they're kind of, I don't know if it's their ivory tower or their idea guys, or they just don't think that the logistics of how stuff actually happens matters to them. It's like Picard on Star Trek, where it's just make it so, and it's made so. So like Trump, I don't think really cares about all the details, like the background, like what Putin's interests are, what Zelensky's interests are, what the different factions are. I don't think he really cares about any of that. He just wanted a deal. He just said, okay, we'll just resolve this when I come to office. It'll be done in a day. I'll just tell them to like sing kumbaya and hold hands, or I'll come up with some sort of compromise because I had someone ghostwrite the art of the deal for me. So like, and I get this a lot at just organizations I work at, where they're just like the senior management are like, oh, just do this. It's not very like it's not that important. It's not something that's urgent, but it takes an immense amount of busy work, and it distracts people from doing the normal stuff. And I just find Trump can be a lot like that, where he just kind of says he's going to do something, attaches someone to it, and then it just never comes up again. I find he also thinks this because he's the president of the United States. He just will like tell somebody to do something of another country, and they're just going to do it because he's the president of the United States. And that's I just find that's very much his attitude. I think beyond that, though, he doesn't care about the Russo-Ukraine conflict. I think that's very obvious. I don't doubt. I'm not going to be doubt that his concern over the death and destruction is not legitimate. I mean, Trump's not like a monster. I'm sure on some level it does bother him, and he doesn't like seeing all the young people get killed over what he sees as kind of a pointless war. So I'll give him that. I'm not doubting his sincerity with regards to that. But the actual conflict himself, I think he's just bored with. He doesn't think it's interesting. There's so many other things that he cares about, but he can't walk away from it, because if he walks away from it, then he did not make a deal, and he cannot claim to be the best deal maker in the world. So he has to make a deal even if there's no deal to be made. I find with this whole process, and going back to this, I think this very much reflects it, this chain of thought, is because he doesn't care about it, but he can't walk away from it. He just wants the thing resolved. If you notice, he keeps just like doing ultimatums and threats and trying to force resolutions and saying we're going to have a ceasefire and Ukraine's going to accept this and Russia's going to do that. And it's just like you have 24 hours to solve this complex conflict. And he just basically keeps doing that. And then it doesn't happen. And then rather than like actually deliver on the threat, he just comes back like over and over again. And then he tries some other like quick way to try to get this thing resolved. Because it's quickly taking up a large amount of time. But like I said, I don't think he's really interested in actually trying to resolve it, because that would take a lot of time and effort that frankly is better used elsewhere. But he also can't walk away from it. So we have this weird sunk cost fallacy. Um, it's kind of the worst of both worlds. Like I said, his cabinet is completely dysfunctional. There's no ideological coherency. A lot of the people hate each other. And I think just his personality and just kind of the dramatic way he runs stuff and the way he talks to people and manages people, I think just encourages this kind of environment. I don't think he runs a very tight ship. And as a result, you just have chaos and people going constantly off the reservation. So what does this mean? Like, what is Trump missing out on, and Rubio and all the other people who are involved in this? Like, let's just look at some of the things that they should be spending more time on: inflation and the price of groceries, the whole Liberation Day tariff war. Does anyone remember what even happened with that? That was announced, and then it was canceled, and then it was re-put back on, and then it was semi put back on, but then there was no reciprocal tariffs, and we're doing deals, and the new deals have to be done in an unreasonably short amount of time because that's how trade deals work. There's dismantling DEI, which they made a lot of progress on, but once again, you have to stick with these things. You can't have ADHD. You have to pick some priorities and focus on them and try to get them resolved rather than just signing an executive order or whatever and then jumping to the next thing. And that's not entirely fair. And I'm not saying Trump doesn't pay attention to these. I'm just saying if you look at the amount of time and energy and effort and political capital he's spending on the Russo-Ukraine war, I think it could probably be used a lot better elsewhere. Even if you don't think morally it's better to use it here, in terms of his base cares way more about tariffs and inflation and crime and deporting illegals and all that stuff than they do about the Russo-Ukraine war. We also, does anyone remember Freedom Cities and that proposal? We're going to build these like new conservative cities. Yeah, I don't either. That just kind of got memory hold. Then we have the other foreign issues. We have the tariff war, which I think is going somewhere, but like, why would that matter? That America is in a trade war with the entirety of planet Earth, that is run in an incredibly chaotic fashion. No, it's we have to focus on Zelensky. We have the Iran nuclear deal, the negotiations there, which I think they're actually making some progress on. However, once again, there's a problem in his cabinet where the neocon faction is trying to prevent a deal from being made and trying to back Israel in attacking Iran and starting World War III. Like, there's that, and Trump isn't capable, seemingly, of controlling it or really making a decisive decision one way or another. There's the whole normalizing relations with Russia thing. Once again, his tsundere relationship with Putin makes that difficult. There's obviously the Israel-Palestine conflict. There's all the drama he's had with his allies, with the Europeans, with the Japanese, with the South Koreans. There's the future structure of NATO. Does anyone remember that, like, we're going to acquire Canada and Greenland and the Panama Canal and we're going to expand America? That just kind of happened, and then it wasn't mentioned again, and then it's periodically mentioned. But I don't think any progress is actually actively being made on that. And once again, it's like, well, but Argent, that's a meme. He just said that because it was funny and it was cool. And that's why he decided to do that. It's just like, once again, I just don't think you can run a country that way. I know a lot of people say, well, Argent, you're an optics cock. You don't get it. You're not like, you don't have the IQ that Trump does. If we did things the way that you wanted to do, we would just continue to lose. And it's like, okay, I get it. I like that Trump is being aggressive. I like that he's hitting, like he's going out and hitting people in the mouth, that he's like being energetic. But at the same time, you have to put your back into these things. Like, he shouldn't be on Truth Social posting about football or like doing these all caps like boomer things where he just starts shitting on random people and it sounds unhinged. Like, I just don't think he should be doing that. It's not professional. It doesn't. I guess it makes his base happy, but I don't think it helps America's relations with other countries. I don't think it helps like his administration. It's just, I guess it's just boomer bait. Maybe that's just what it is, but I just don't like it. I think it's unprofessional. And people say, well, professionalism is what got us to this place. Like, I don't get why you can't like have some degree of organization and coherency and not just have insane drama constantly happening and everyone snaking each other and actually getting things done. If anything, I feel like not having a chaotic environment is better for getting things done. And so, Trump continues to burn through his political capital on this one, not resolving the issue. It's indecisive. There's constant narrative, policy shifts. He says we're definitely leaving this time, and then they don't, and it makes him look like he's weak and incompetent and has no idea what he's doing, which is not the impression you want to give. Once again, he had the opportunity to walk away from this. He could have walked away, not linked the Ukraine flame, but now he's made it his war. Like he's tied himself to it. He's like committed to being the peacekeeper now. So I don't know if he can walk away at this point. It's gone like he might have taken like I don't know, I'm just going to pick an arbitrary number. Like he might have lost 10 prestige and 10 face if he had have just walked away at the start of this conflict. It would have looked bad, but his base would have forgiven him. A lot of moderates in America would kind of get it, and a lot of people would grumble, but they kind of understand. Now, if he walks away, he's going to lose like 100 face. Like it's going to be way, way worse now that he's made the war his own, as they say on American Idol. Putin, I think, has just given up. He has no idea what the fuck's going on. And he's just like, you know what? We're just going to win this on the battlefield. I don't know what Trump's doing. Trump doesn't know what Trump's doing. We'll just keep going along with whatever the negotiations are and just do that. So I don't even know where he's going to go with this. And it's like, because it's a bad situation where I think it's as likely that he walks away, that he just goes back to Biden era policies and starts giving weapons again, to he just, I don't know, goes harder and does the bone crushing sanctions. It's just, he just needs to pick something. And it's kind of weird for Trump to be this indecisive, but he just is. Once again, I think he just doesn't understand that sometimes you can't just sign a piece of paper and tell people to do things and it happens. So I don't know, maybe I've been overly critical to Trump in this video, but it is very frustrating. And the whole thing is just getting very tiresome and very pathetic. So that's the video. God bless. I hope you were amused by my little Dark Souls intro. And we'll talk to you again real soon.